Hi guys, bonjour, hola, my name is Trish. If you're new on this channel, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. On this channel, we learn about the basics of Photoshop for beginners, intermediate, and some advanced tutorial. So if there's something that you like, please take a minute and hit the subscribe button so we can get started with this tutorial. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to create this birthday party flyer. So without further ado, let's jump right into this lesson. So the first thing we're going to do is that we want to set our canvas size. So you want to go to File, New, and you want to change your dimensions to inches. And for your width, you want to choose 7. For your height, you want to choose 10. And you are going to click on create. So the first thing that we're going to do is that we want to bring in our background image. So I'm going to go to my folder and I am going to reduce this and I'm going to drag in my background like so, and I'm going to rotate. So with my move tool activated, I'm just going to rotate holding down my shift. Now I'm going to do this to scale it. So the next thing we're going to do is that we want to apply a gradient effect to our background. So I'm going to click on my adjustment and I am going to click on my gradient. Now, when you look in my foreground and background, you see I have two colors. I have almost like a gold and I have another brownish gold effect. So with my gradient fill box open, I'm going to click on my gradient and I am going to click on the basic and choose two-tone gradient. Notice I'm not choosing the solid to transparent, but I'm choosing the two solid colors. Now, if you want it a bit more richer in terms of the color, you can double click and maybe go for a deeper gold like so. But I want to keep it in the muted side, on the muted side. I'm going to click OK. And then for this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to shift it a little so it's a little bit more brownish gold. And I'm going to click OK. If you want the exact colors I use, I'm going to click on the brown. And you can see the color is 2COC09. And for the gold, I'm going to click on that. That is B69140. I'm going to click OK. Now we want to reverse. We want to change the style. So I'm going to click on my style and do radial. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. We want to now reduce the opacity of that so we get a little bit of the background effect that is sort of showing through. So the next thing we're going to do is that we want to go ahead and bring in our image, which is the main subject. So I'm going to go to my folder and then I'm going to drag in this PNG file. Now the background has already been taken, so it makes it easier for you all if you want to test this. So I'm going to move this and set this right here. And then off the bat, the first thing you notice is that we have some white in the hair. So in order to fix that, and the easiest way to do it is that we want to pick our eraser and I'm just going to go ahead and blend that portion in. Now, if you were cutting the background using the quick select tool, you could also use the hair refining to also clean up the hair, but we're just going to do it the shortcut way. So I'm going to double click and convert my image into smart object. I'm going to increase my brush head and you want to make sure that your hardness is at 0. And now we want to just go ahead and blend this in. I'm going to increase just a little. We can blend this in like that. Now, if you are using a different image, obviously you wouldn't have to do this, but I really love this image and I just want to, and I'm just going to clean that piece and I'm going to do the same thing around this side as well. So it's as though she's fading in, but it's just the outside. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom in so we can see the entire thing. Now, this looks really good. Now, the next thing we're going to do is that we want to bring in the theme of our flyer before we do anything else. So I'm going to pick my type tool, and we want to choose a different font, which I will have available for you to download. This is the Packard Clipper NF. So I'm going to click on that, and we are going to go ahead and type in birth. First of all, I want to highlight my font, and I am going to make it white so we can see it is popping, but we want to add a gold effect. So we're going to double click on the side of that layer. It will open up the layer style. Now there are a few styles that you want to add to get the gold effect. So we're going to add a bevel effect, and we're going to also add a contour, and we're going to add an inner glow, and then we want to add a gradient overlay and a drop shadow. So we have all of these elements. Now the first one I'm going to is the drop shadow. So I'm going to double click on the drop shadow, and I want to take the distance in a little and also move my angle so we can see a little bit more. The next thing that you want to take a look at is my bevel. Now when you look at my bevel, I have the style as inner bevel, and the technique is chisel hard. Now my depth is around 157. You can increase it a little, and as you do that, you realize that your gold effect begins to change slightly. So this is all based on preference. Now my direction is down. If you move it up, you see it gives it a different look. So I'm gonna keep mine down, and you can see my style. As I increase it, it changes the whole thing. So I'm gonna keep it where I had it, somewhere 10, and my soften is at 1. Now when you come to your shading, my angle is at 34 and global light is checked. Now you can take it off and get a more brighter effect, but I want to keep that on, and my altitude is at 30, and for my gloss contour I use a 3 ring. So take note of that. I used a double ring, I'm sorry. And when it comes to the highlight, I have a screen on, and you can see that doesn't do much. And then I have my shadow mode at 77. Now when you go on the contour, you see that my contour, I have the cone contour, and my range is at 100. Now I'm gonna click on my inner glow. Now when you come to my inner glow, I have my blend mode on multiply. So I have my opacity at 60, noise at 17. Now the color, I chose an orangey color that will give me the goldish look. So if you want that exact color, is FE8B04. I'm gonna click OK. Now when it comes to the technique, I have it on soft, and my source is center. When you look at my choke, that is 0, and my size is at 3. And when you come down, my contour is linear. I didn't change it. I left it at the default. Now my range is at 50, and my jitter is 0. Now if I change the contour, you notice that it doesn't really do much on this one, but you can still see this has a more of a metallic look versus the straight. So if I want a bit more of a metallic look, I can choose this, and I think I like this. So I'm gonna stick with the metallic look, and I'm gonna come out of this. Now we want to look at the gradient. Under the gradient, I have my blend mode on normal. Opacity is at 100, but you can notice that my gradient is almost like a yellowish gold. So if you double click on that, you see I have 2 colors. Now the first one, the color is FDF4AF, and the second one is also C4AF55. And I'm giving you all of these colors in case you want to match mine, so you have the exact thing. Now I'm gonna click OK, and you can see my style is on linear. angle at 90 and my style at 78. Now when you come to the drop shadow, now the drop shadow is almost the same thing. It all depends on what you want, but you can see my blend mode is on normal, opacity 83, my angle is at 34 because of the way I want my shadow to be cast. Now my spread and my size, you can see I have distance at 9, spread 1, and size at 3. The contour is linear. So with all of these 5 different style effect, it gives you this golden look. Now I'm gonna go ahead and click OK. Now the good thing about this effect is that your text is non-destructive. So even if I want to change this font, I can still do that. And I'm going to show you that in a minute, but I want to add another. I'm going to create a new layer and I want to change my font to orthography and I'm going to type in party. And notice that even though I have everything in uppercase, when I typed it, the only thing I made uppercase was the P. Now the rest are supposed to be in lowercase, but they are not showing up like so. And the reason being that if you go under your properties and the type option, you see that all caps are turned on. So if I turn that off, first of all, I need to highlight my text and click on that. So you see that it takes away all the caps and makes everything lowercase. Now I'm just going to go ahead and scale it like so and set it somewhere here. And I want to add a drop shadow. So I'm going to double click and bring up the layer style. And I'm just going to add a drop shadow. I'm not going to do too much to it. I'm going to leave it like that. And I'm going to click OK. Now we have these two. If I change my mind and I want the party to be a gold party, meaning everybody to be in gold and white, I can just double click and change that to gold. And I can even go ahead and rescale like so, and then set it right here. And this is the non-destructive way of creating a gold effect that you can always change up the font. So this is just a way to show you what you can do. I'm going to press Command D to go back because we are sticking with the birthday. Okay, so with this said, we want to go ahead and now add dispersion effect to our subject. I'm going to click on my subject layer and I'm going to create a duplicate. So Command J to make a duplicate if you're on the Mac. So if you're not on the Mac, Control J to make a duplicate if you are on the Windows. So with that made, I'm going to turn off the bottom one, and the top one, we're going to go up to filter, and then we are going to choose Liquify. Now, I don't know if you've used Liquify that much, but it's a very fun tool to use to even create caricatures and all of that cool stuff. So I'm going to decrease my brush head by pressing down on my left bracket. I'm going to pick up my forward warp tool, and I just want to spread out this area of my subject. Now, this is for the bottom of my subject, and guys, don't worry, you're going to see what I'm doing in a minute. I'm sure you're like, what is she doing? You're messing up the lady. I know, guys, but you're going to love this effect. So now that we have something like this, we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now you want to add a layer mask. Okay, so we're going to add a layer mask and we want to inverse it. So Command I to inverse your layer mask. Now you want to make sure you are on the thumbnail for the layer mask before you do that. Now I'm going to click on my bottom image and I'm going to also add a layer mask. So I'm going to pick up my brush tool, and with my foreground as black, we all know when we're using layer masks, black hides, white reveal. So you want to click on the thumbnail of your original subject that has not been distorted. So once you have that selected, you want to go up to your brush and choose a brush effect that you like, spatula brushes. And if you don't have this brush, I did a tutorial on how you can get all of these free brushes in one of my videos. I will put a link to that in the description so you can download this specific brush. That is if you want to use that. So with my foreground as black, I'm going to click around my subject. I'm going to reduce it, and I'm going to go ahead and reduce my brush head, and we're just going to do something like this. So our subject is being eaten up a little, so we just want to get this effect sort of like so. Okay, and I'm going to pick up my subject, and I'm going to click on both layers of my subject, and I'm going to move her a little so she's centered like that. And I'm going to move my birthday up and my party like so. Now we want to go back on the other layer, which is the one that has the liquefied applied. Now you want to click on your thumbnail, still with your brush. You want to inverse your foreground to white. Now white reveals, so because we have the inverse, we can see the liquefied effect. So we want to reveal some portions of it. So you want to increase your brush a little, and you want to reduce if it's too much, and you want to do something like this. So it's as though you have something that is being revealed on the bottom. You can reduce your brush if it's too much and just pick up a few like that. So we are just dabbing till we get the effect that we want. Now the question is, what if I'm doing it too much? Now you can reverse and hide a few. You can just reverse your foreground and then just clean up a few, still painting over, so it will hide a few of that for you, and you can just keep what you want and get rid of the rest. So I'm just going to do that so we have this effect. Now if you want to have a more of a dispersion effect, you can go ahead and do it, but we're going to keep it very minimal. We're going to go ahead to add the date and the rest of the info. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and add the date. So I'm going to reverse my foreground to white, pick my type tool, and I'm going to type in December. I'm going to highlight, and I have another cool font. This is all round Gothic. I have just fallen in love with this new font. It's so modern and clean and cool. So I'm going to make a duplicate. That is, if you want, Command J, and we're going to add the day of the event, and I'm going to change this font, and I'm using the Agagi Pro, and I'm going to go ahead and rescale it like so and set it right here. Now I want to change this color. I'm going to go for a gold like what we have, but I want it to have a little bit more of a punch so it stands out. Now I'm going to make a duplicate, Command J, make a duplicate, double click and change that, and we are going to scale it down, and I'm going to double click and change the color to white so we get a bit of a contrast, and I'm going to set that right there like so, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. Guys, this is looking good. Don't worry about the background. We are not there yet. So with this set for us, we want to go ahead and add the extra info that we need to show on the bottom so people can know where this event is being held. So I'm going to make a duplicate, Command J of my text, pull this down, double click and change that to the Heart Hotel. And I'm going to go ahead and rescale and set that right there like so. Put it down a little, and we want the font to be a little bit thick. Now, because if I go to my style for my font, I don't have any option. Now, there's a trick that I use. So you want to double click to bring your layer style, and you want to add a stroke effect. Now, you want to make sure the stroke effect is the same color as the text color. So it gives it a good blend position on the outside because you want it to be a little bit thicker. So don't do it on the inside because it's not going to show. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now we want to add the address and a little bit more info before we finish up the background. So I'm going to click on this and make a duplicate. Command J. I'm going to pull that down and I'm going to zoom in. We're going to double click to add the address. So with this set, we want to go ahead and zoom in. And instead of putting a comma, I'm going to select my circle, my ellipse shape, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to draw a little circle right there, and I'm going to release. But notice it has a black outline. So I'm going to click on that shape. The property bar opens up. Under my stroke, I want to take out my stroke. So you want to check the box with the red line going through, and it takes that off. Now, when I zoom out, I have this. And it's a little detail, but I think it makes a difference. So you don't always use the normal or the default that everybody would expect you to use. Choose my type tool, and I want to click on my foreground, choose the same color, and I think I'm going to make it a little bit more on the bright side because of the bottom color. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select everything, set that below, and I'm going to double click and change the color to that so it pops. And I'm going to double click, and we are going to see what other color, what other font we can use. So I'm going to choose the Gothic Century and make it bold. And I'm going to highlight just the bars in between and make those white. I'm going to do that. So it adds a little bit of a contrast on the bottom so the color is not just gold all through. So with this set, we want to make sure we align. Guys, I like to always align things because it makes your work look very well organized and at the same time easy to read. Not to say you can't put things wherever you want, but you want it to read as a composition. You want it to make sense. So with this set, we want to go ahead and add a little bit of a detail on the top. So I'm going to pick up my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle just like that. I'm going to add a new layer, and with my foreground as white, I'm going to pick my paint bucket and I'm going to fill that in. Command D to deselect. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to move that and set that right there. I'm going to zoom in a little and reduce that again. And I'm going to double click to come out. So we have this effect. Now you can leave it like this if you want, or you can basically blur out the edges, and that's what I want to do. I'm going to pick my brush and I'm going to paint in that area just like that and like that, and like this and like that. And you can increase it again if you want, so you get a very long line going across. Now, if it's too much, you can zoom back in and you can reduce this, holding down your shift, so you can basically squash that. And you have this effect. It's not bad at all. So before we move on, guys, if you love this flyer and you want to share with others, please go ahead, share it with anybody that you want, and let them also enjoy this free info so they can also benefit from it. And please don't forget to like, comment. Oh, by the way, can you tell me your favorite part of this flyer? Okay, I just want to know what you think about this flyer. And I know that a lot of people have been requesting more birthday flyers, so I am going to also begin to drop some birthday flyers and as well as the church flyers. So I'm going to go ahead and now bring in my other backgrounds to add to this. So I'm going to go back to my folder and I'm going to go ahead and bring in the bouquet folder image, and I'm going to set it. I'm going to scale it like that, and I'm going to move it down and scale it a little bit more like so. Now, you want to go to the blend mode for this and change it to screen. Now, whenever you change any image you have that has a black background using screen basically takes out the black background and leaves only the colored image. So always bear that in mind whenever you're even trying to find a background online to use. You can always do that. Now, I want to go ahead and reduce the opacity a little, eraser, and I'm going to select my layer, and I want to convert this into a raster image so I can paint and take the light off her face. Now, we can leave it on her body. It's not that bad because it's just going through. And I'm going to zoom out, and then I'm going to rescale like so. And I'm going to move this down a little so we have this cool effect. So I'm going to click back on that image and reduce the opacity a little so we can see our font in the background. Okay, so with this set, what I want to do is I want to move this all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to move this and put this right on top of my subject. So we have this cool effect. Now I'm going to zoom in. You see the white lines around my subject. Now we can take it off by using the feather, but I'm just going to use my eraser tool, and I'm going to click on my subject image, and I'm going to use my eraser, reduce that, and I'm just going to brush a little just so we blend in our subject with the background, and at the same time we are taking care of the white line around our subject like so. And this is just a gentle notch or erasing, so it's not so much. So just make sure that your hardness is at 0 when you're doing this so that you get a good effect. So now that we have this, I want to go ahead and bring in the last but one image. I'm going to drag this in, and this is just a little bit of a lens flare effect that we want to add. So I'm going to move this up, and just like we did with the first image, we're going to change the screen mode we're going to change the blend mode to screen so it takes off the background. Now we're going to set that somewhere here, but I want to double click, accept it, and I want to move that up so it's above my subject so we get this effect. Now I'm going to move my light source, and I'm going to scale a little bit and set that somewhere here. Now you notice that you can still see the line of where that image actually begins and ends. So we're going to pick up our eraser, and I'm going to make sure that I click on that light layer, and I'm going to convert to smart object. I'm going to increase my brush head, making sure my hardness is at 0. Now I'm going to just brush gently to blend that in so we don't see anything. And I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom. So we have this effect. Now we can actually squash the light a little and move it up. So we have this effect somewhere here. And then I'm going to move the P out a little. With my eraser tool, I'm going to just erase that end so we don't see it. So we have this cool effect. Now, the other thing that we want to do is bring in one more image, and that is this. We're going to just drop it in. Those are the stars, and we're going to rotate, holding down our shift so we can rotate in a 90 degrees angle without a struggle. We're going to move this and set that right here and scale it to the bottom like so. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it very well. Double click to set it in place. Now we are going to do the same thing. Change the blend mode to what? To screen. You got it. So I'm going to zoom out and zoom out because I want to rotate this. So I'm going to rotate it like this and hold down my shift. Now I want to move this and set that somewhere here. I'm going to zoom in. So we have almost like a sparkle on her ring, and we have this light here as well. So we have this bling bling going on her face. Now guys, if this is too much, you can erase and take some off. But I wanted to give this option because I know that there are some that really like to get their flyers over the top in design, you know, and they want like the bling bling and they want everything sparkling here and there. So with this set, we want to go ahead and add 1 or 2 different steps to finish this off. So I'm going to go up to my top layer and I'm going to add a color lookup. And then you want to go to your property and choose any option. Now you see that this option makes it a little bit more reddish. You just want to go ahead and play with a different effect. Now I have it on crisp warm. Now this is a little bit too much. So what you can do, even if you like this effect, is that you want to take down the opacity. Okay, when you take down the opacity, you still get the effect, but it's not too much. Go ahead and go to our background. We can also reduce the opacity so it's not too much. So we have something like this. Now, if your light and some stuff are not showing, you can use your eraser. You can pick your brush tool, and we want to add a layer mask. Now, you know, with the layer mask, we can hide things. So if you want to take a bit of the sparkle off, you can go back to your brush, make sure you choose a soft round, and you want to make sure your foreground is black hide. So you can hide this one. You can even hide this one so that you can still see all of the info that you want to convey to your audience. I hope that this was fun and it's something that you can't wait to try it out. So I'm going to have all of these images available in the link in the description. You can download the images and create your version of this from scratch. And as always, you can use your own images if you want. So just go all out, have fun with this. And guys, as always, I want to see your finished work. So you can send it to me on Instagram and I will be so glad to take a look at it. So till next time, guys, be safe. Bye.